What is up, guys? It is AJ from MMA Experts, and we are talking about Anthony Rumble Johnson signing with Bellator and leaving the UFC. Granted, he was retired for 3 years, wanted to make a comeback, seemed to be going to the UFC, entered the USADA testing pool, and then we hear today Rumble Johnson signs with Bellator. The UFC, I guess, agreed to part ways with him. I was a little bit surprised just because Rumble does bring a lot of eyes. I mean, I think he's a pretty fan favorite fighter. I mean, he's fun as hell to watch. One punch knockout power, unlike anything we've ever seen in the light heavyweight division. I mean, the guy recently came off a title shot right before he retired. And if you look at his track record, besides fighting Daniel Cormier at light heavyweight, the guy's a straight killer. I mean, knocked out Glover Teixeira in 13 seconds, knocked out Alexander Gustafsson. And I mean, the names are endless. Jimmy Manua, really just endless names. I thought that he'd be a great addition back in the light heavyweight division. I thought that potentially we could see him as the world champion, but he decides to leave for Bellator. There's a couple of reasons. I think one is going to be he's going to be guaranteed probably, a star in Bellator, number one. Granted, I think he still would have been very popular in the UFC, but he will be one of Bellator's guys in that light heavyweight division. Potentially could work his way into a title shot. I don't believe so. I think Corey Anderson, though, is the number one contender. They're going to give it to Corey. And then maybe if Corey wins that shot or he loses it, whatever, the winner would then fight Rumble. If I'm Corey Anderson, though, and if Corey does become champion, I'm pretty scared because Rumble Johnson is one of the hardest punchers ever. And Corey Anderson is known for, if he gets hit, he tends to feel his shots. He doesn't wear his shots as well as some. I think one of the reasons, though, was competition. I think that maybe he felt that would be an easier path to the title. Maybe he thought the UFC would make him take a couple fights before then. Maybe the money was less in the UFC. But I think a big factor had to be he's not going to be in USADA. And I'm not necessarily saying that he's going to be taking anabolic steroids, but he did admit to using some things while being outside of the MMA world and focus on bodybuilding. I mean, he got massive. I think that he wants to use maybe some different supplements that the UFC may test for, maybe things that aren't allowed in the UFC, maybe just testosterone replacement therapy just because he wants to feel better. And he had been doing stuff like that for the time that he was away. So now he's like, oh, I don't want to stop doing everything. He stopped and maybe he wasn't feeling as good as he could have with it. So then in his mind, he said, I want to get back on it. The UFC, you can't do that. Bellator, you can probably get away with taking TRT. And I think we will probably see TRT Rumble, or at least potentially. Maybe that's not the reason. Maybe Bellator offered him more money. Maybe Bellator gave him a better deal. Or maybe he just wanted to do something new, a new motivation. He wanted to wear some new gloves. I don't know. I really don't know. But I do think he's going to be a legit player right away. If I'm Bellator, who do I match him up with? If it's not him waiting for the number one fight, I mean, for the title fight, and he's the number one contender, a name that comes to mind is Phil Davis. Phil Davis is a savage because Phil Davis went 3 rounds with Rumble Johnson, one of the few men to be able to go the distance with him. I mean, he knocked out Ryan Bader in a minute, knocked out Glover in 13 seconds. And I don't think many fighters are going to be able to last much with him. But Phil Davis won all 3 rounds. I don't know if Phil Davis is going to be jumping to the idea of rematching Rumble Johnson. I don't know if he'll be opposed to it. I mean, if you look at Bellator's light heavyweight division, there's good names, but it's not deep, right? You have Ryan Bader, who's excellent. Vadim Nemkov, who's the champion now, who's excellent. You have Corey Anderson, former UFC top contender. Lyoto Machida, former top contender in the UFC. Outside of that, you have Carl Brexon. Maybe potentially that would be a fight. But I don't know. I think that Rumble Johnson, potentially the first matchup for him would be a Phil Davis rematch. I don't know outside of that. I mean, are they going to give him Melvin Manhoef, who just fought against Corey Anderson? I don't think that would really be the fight. I don't think that fight makes a lot of sense. If I'm Melvin Manhoef, I don't know if I take that fight. I mean, maybe they want to make that fight and it's just a striker's dream battle. I don't think Manhoef does well in that matchup. I mean, if you look down the list, I could see every fighter in the light heavyweight division being defeated by Rumble Johnson. He matches up well against a lot of them. I'd like to see the Vadim Nemkov fight, but I will say they probably are going to give it to Corey Anderson. If Anthony Rumble Johnson is looking to fight fairly soon, I think he takes a Bellator debut before the title shot, unless they want to bring him in right away as the challenger. I don't know necessarily. Do you do that to a guy who's been away for 3 years? I think you give him a potential showcase fight. I think you do the Phil Davis rematch, or I won't be shocked, though, if somehow Melvin Manhoef maybe works his way in there, or something a little different. What about Lyoto Machida? That could be a fun fight. I'd be intrigued to see it. They're saying Rumble's going to be fighting at 205. I don't know if he'd be opposed to a run at heavyweight. I mean, that could potentially happen in Bellator. Really wants that 205 division. I don't know. We're going to see with time, but I just thought it was really interesting. He decided to sign with Bellator. I think he's going to have a lot of fun fighting there. I think he's going to get some excellent knockouts. He's definitely going to make some highlights. And I do believe there's a high likelihood we see Rumble Johnson as the world champion in Bellator. And there's really some legitimacy to this Bellator light heavyweight division. I mean, if you look, the number one contender in the UFC light heavyweight division technically would be Glover Teixeira. Victory Rumble Johnson has over him was in 13 seconds. And Phil Davis also has a win over Glover Teixeira, as does Corey Anderson has a win over Glover. So I don't know. I think maybe, just maybe, this is saying that Bellator maybe has a legit division. I think that their light heavyweight division is on another level. And I want to double check that. He does, yeah. Yeah, I wasn't sure if Phil Davis had beaten Glover. No, he did. He beat Glover. So I mean, 3 Bellator fighters that are not the champion have a victory over the UFC's number 1 light heavyweight contender. It's kind of interesting. Bellator is a legitimate light heavyweight class. That's their best class, I would say right now, or at least their best class as far as competing with UFC talent, at least proven on paper. There's a lot of contenders and a lot of potential high-level guys throughout all Bellator's weight classes. This signing of Rumble, great move for Bellator. I think there's going to be some awesome fights that he puts on. I think potentially he'll have the strap around his waist, and we will see. I cannot wait for his debut to be announced. Thank you guys all for watching this video. Like, subscribe, turn on those post notifications. Also, guys, follow my social media, Instagram, Twitter, and I'll see you all in the next video.